This is Support is Sexy, episode 360, with Melissa Mitchner, founder and CEO of the Bark Shoppe. Welcome to Support is Sexy. I'm your host, Elaine Fluker, entrepreneur, author, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I interview inspiring women entrepreneurs who share their wins and their lessons to help you take your business and your life to the next level and create something sexy. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm so excited to have you here. You know, it just would not be the same without you. And if you are listening to this in real time, happy Monday. I have a great episode for you today, not only because, I talk about momentum all the time on this podcast. If you've been listening for a while, Momentum Education is a personal development workshop that I went through in 2015, and it is truly the inspiration behind Support is Sexy. In that workshop is when I learned how much I had such a resistance to asking for and accepting support. And that's when I began to see support as sexy. Thus spawned the movement, thus spawned the community, and thus spawned the podcast, which you all are joining me for today. But on this episode, I get to talk to Melissa Mitchner, who is founder and CEO of the Bark Shoppe, which is a premier pet care facility located in Harlem, New York. But Melissa and I were in Momentum together, the very first one. The start-off one is called the Basic Workshop. We were in that first one together. She was just starting her business or early stages of her business at that time. And it's amazing to hear her story of where she is now. But really, I want you to listen out for something that truly resonated for me throughout her story. The importance of taking inspired action. Tony Robbins talks about inspired action a lot. Melissa has a great story for you about inspired action. I love saying that the Support is Sexy podcast is really about strategy wrapped in storytelling. And Melissa's story is a perfect example of that. She gives us strategy on opening a brick and mortar shop, but really the story of how she took this inspired action and the surprising thing that inspired it is really something that I want you to listen out to, and hopefully you will be inspired. Everybody's not going to get your idea. Everybody's not even going to support it, but sometimes, actually most of the time, you just have to go for it. So in this episode, what else you'll hear from Melissa is determining a way that your business will better your community, why you need to have 6 to 8 months of expenses covered when opening a brick and mortar shop, how to get through those low moments in entrepreneurship because they come for all of us, how to know when it's time to rebrand, the importance of having the right people on your bus and on your team, how to enroll others in your vision, and how to make your clients your biggest advocates. So I know you're going to enjoy this episode, chock full of great information. So without further ado, Melissa Mitchner. So Melissa, thank you so much for joining us on Support is Sexy. I'm excited to chat with you.
I'm excited to talk with you as well.
Yay, my fellow Momentum friend.
Yes, yes.
Now, first question, when did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
I would say I first fell in love with entrepreneurship in 2005. I didn't really know what it entailed, but it was my first time working at Best Buy. That was my first and only job. And that was my first time being like in a small business and seeing how it ran. And we actually interacted with a lot of business to business customers. Mm-hmm. So people would always come in and say they need this for their business, or their staff will be buying things. And I was like, oh, that seems really cool. And then we were able to run our departments as if it was our own business. So I would say that was the first time I fell in love with entrepreneurship.
Now, at that time, though, did you have any aspirations of becoming an entrepreneur, or did you think you were going to do something else?
I had no aspirations of becoming an entrepreneur. I just wanted to be responsible and prove to my parents that I could support myself.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's your background and where did you grow up?
So I grew up in the South Bronx. I grew up in the Mitchell Housing Project. And I am the oldest of 3 children from my mom. I was actually raised by my grandma. So there definitely wasn't in my area. There weren't any like examples of entrepreneurs or, small business owners, other than, the people that went to that own the corner stores, or, the supermarket. I would say that I didn't really pay attention to that because it wasn't introduced to me. That wasn't a lifestyle or way of life. For me, it was just like, continuing to go to school, get my education, get a great job. That was always on the forefront. But as far as being an entrepreneur and like all of those things, that was never something that was displayed or like an example, like, oh, I want to be like so and so and they own this or they have that.
Right. It's so funny you say that because we don't think I grew up in Long Island, but seeing like the corner store, these different places owned by the people who were such a part of the neighborhood, I never thought about, oh, they're owners or they're entrepreneurs.
Right.
They were just, Mr. Lee or Mr. So-and-so or Miss whatever from the such and such store. But you never think about entrepreneurship was around, but like you said, we were exposed to it, but we didn't necessarily talk about it, a lot of us.
Right.
Unless it was within our families.
Right.
And at that time, it was all about getting a good job.
Getting a good job and getting an education. I mean, I remember like an associate's an associate's was a big thing.
Right.
In my family, everyone, not everyone, but, I was well aware of like a master's or a PhD. So it was like, well, I want to get my PhD.
You're like, I'm going
if you
all
got
the way.
your bachelor's, yeah, I'm going all the way. But at the time, like an associate's was like, you have to get an associate's degree.
Those 2 years were a big deal.
Right.
Right. Now, how would you describe yourself as a young person? What was a young Melissa like?
A young Melissa. I was very adventurous. I would definitely say I always pushed the envelope. I was always a leader. And this actually came up for me recently because I have a 15-year-old sister. And we were just having a conversation about life. So I was very in tune with who I was, and that I was able to lead people. But it was uncomfortable for me, I would say. Like, I didn't grow in my power, my strength. Like, I always knew I was different, but I couldn't figure out how it was different. And it felt weird to me. Like, people naturally gravitated to me. I always loved talking to people. Actually, in my report card, it always says, great academic, but needs to stop talking in class.
Right. Stop trying to solve everybody's problems.
Right. So that was like a young Melissa.
Do you feel like you were resistant to that even as you grew into an adult for a while, being a leader?
No. So actually, when I got to Best Buy, that was my first and only job. That was the only company I ever worked for.
How old were you at that time?
I was 18. I had just turned 18 years old.
Okay.
And my mom was like, you need to get a job. And I was like, I'm going to prove you wrong. Like, so I started as a cashier. And I always had great examples of work ethic around me in general. So I started as a cashier, and then I moved all the way up into a district. And I just knew, like, it never felt uncomfortable. It was just, I always realized that I was the youngest person in the room.
Now, what does that mean when you say you moved up to district, like a district manager?
I was a district administrative assistant. So I was a district executive assistant. So I went from being in the store as a cashier on 86th Street to actually grand opening both Bronx locations and being a part of the hiring process with that and recruitment. And then after successfully opening those two stores and hiring over like 3,000 people, after that, it was like, okay, so what's next? And then I went on to support the district staff. So I was their executive assistant. So I actually got to see what it was like to be in a store, to open a store, and then to also go to corporate in Minnesota.
Now, so did you move to Minnesota?
No, we would fly back and forth.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, wow, that's commitment. So then at what point, because it sounds like you were definitely on a trajectory, I can't say the word, there at Best Buy and moving forward. What was the point then, since you said that was your only job, that you decided to become an entrepreneur? What was the turning point?
So when I was at Best Buy, it was always clear that I never wanted to be a manager or a supervisor or move up in anything else. I always wanted to be an educator. My grandmother was an educator. She retired as a principal. I felt like that would be my way of giving back, since I gave a lot of teachers hell in high school. So I always wanted to be a high school teacher. And they did a reorg, they did a restructuring of the company, and they decided that, they wanted to do more with less. And they said, listen, you can go back into the store or we'll pay you to leave. And I just thought about, like, the 9 years that I worked for the company, the 8.5 years that I worked for the company. I said, I'm not going backwards.
Right.
My plan was actually to attend and finish Lehman to get my master's in education. And I love reality television. I was watching a show called Chicago-licious. And in that show, there was a woman discussing where she took her dog and how much she loved it. I had already been out of work for a year, and I was pursuing my degree at Lehman, almost
Lehman
finished.
College, right?
Lehman College in the Bronx,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And I was like, oh, I could do that.
Wait. Chicago-licious is a reality show.
It's a reality hair show, yes.
A reality hair show. Wait, so when you saw her, the woman getting her pet groomed, you were like, I can do that.
So she actually was getting her hair groomed, and she was talking to AJ, the stylist, about where she took her dog and how much she loved it. And I said, I could do that.
What was it in that moment that made you feel like I could do that, or even that I want to do that?
I just felt like like a light bulb went off.
Mm-hmm.
It was like an aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, where would I open this? And, did we need this uptown? And I remember speaking to my family and my friends, and they were like, you're completely out of your mind.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? And I never grew up with any pets. I was afraid of big dogs. So to them, they really thought I was having like a mental breakdown, not working at Best Buy. Everyone's like, there's life after Best Buy.
They thought you were you had a psychotic break, right?
They thought I really like broke down. And I remember, like, I walked from 135th Street. I knew I didn't want to be past 135th Street. So immediately that day, like, I was actually on my way to class. And I was in class, and I wasn't paying attention to anything the professor was saying. I was looking up, like, the stats on the industry, how many pets were born in the United States, all these things. And I was like, I think I just struck gold. And then I was like, so where do I want to be? And I knew I didn't want to be past 135th Street because I wanted to be able to get customers and clients that would go to Central Park. Because I think people always often associate Central Park with downtown and in the city, mm-hmm. but it's actually the beginning is 110th Street. So I was like, And I just walked. I walked from 135th Street to 110th Street. And I remember walking back from 110th Street, and I discovered St. Nicholas Avenue and the split. I never knew St. Nicholas Avenue split. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know it existed. And I fell in love with this space on the corner that had brick exposed walls. So, like, I literally saw that in May. Like, school was going to be over. May of 2012. Mm-hmm. School was about to be over in, like, 3 weeks. I signed a lease in July. I grand opened in August, and I enrolled in grooming school like 2 weeks after I saw that episode.
Okay. Woo, Melissa. That is a lot. I love it. That's a great story. Now, for everyone listening, because we have listeners in 125 countries, the area Melissa is talking about is Harlem in New York. So when she says she walked from 135th to 110th, that's the number of blocks that she walked and just explored the neighborhood looking for a space. Now, were you living in Harlem at the time, or were you still living in the Bronx?
At the time, so in the course of this, my grandmother actually passed away, my guardian.
Mm-hmm.
So I was still living in the South Bronx. I was still in the projects.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I can do it. So I was there, and I was like, let's take this jump.
Your siblings, were they still there?
No.
Okay.
So my siblings live with my mom.
Okay.
And it was just like, all right, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a whirlwind. Everything happened really quickly looking back.
It sounds like it, yeah. So now, one of the things I want everybody to catch, though, just the fact that, and I love this, and I try to do this as well, but you're such an example of this, taking inspired action, even if it feels crazy. Now, you didn't go the next day and open the shop, but you, the next day in class, not paying attention, but in class,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about the business, but doing research. Like you said, how many pets are born? What is this industry like? What do I need to know? Even though, as you said, you had no connection to pets or the industry beforehand, but there was something in you that knew, at least it sounds like to me, that
Mm-hmm.
you were inspired in that morning and had to take, well, you didn't have to take action. A lot of people are inspired like that and they don't take action. How do you feel, or do you, or what do you have to say about just that idea of the importance of taking inspired action and sort of seeing it all the way through?
I think it's very important. Even now, being 5 years in business, I constantly take inspired action. Something that I live by is like, just test it out. It takes 90 days to build a habit. So generally, I try things out for 90 days. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, I tried.
Right.
And I think that sometimes, in my experience, and talking with other people and friends and things of that nature, everyone's so afraid to fail, but it's not necessarily the failing, it's the backlash. Like, oh, she tried that and it didn't work out. Whereas only 4% of people actually execute like what they really want to do, which is crazy to me. So it's like, if I tried it, even now, I'm in the industry I didn't think I would be in. I love it. I don't see myself doing, I mean, there are other things I want to do, but if I had to close tomorrow, I tried and I did something that most people weren't willing to take the risk, and it's okay.
Right. And it's working out.
And it's working
That's
out.
another thing to say. Yes, the Bark Shoppe is very popular. So now going back, you're strolling around the neighborhood. I'm taking it piece by piece. Strolling around the neighborhood, and you see the location that you thought would be ideal. Was the space already empty, or was something else there? Or
So the space was vacant. They actually had a for rent sign. I was like, yes, this is like, thank you, God. This is a sign. And I remember like it was a real estate agent, and I kept like contacting the agent, and they were like, yeah, we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you. So I actually drove to their office, and it was in Riverdale. And I was like, listen, I know that you don't necessarily know me, and I've never had a business before, but I have a business plan, and these are my numbers, and this is what I intend to do. And they were like looking at me like, this girl is completely out of her mind. And it was two brothers, and one brother, he was like, can you give us a moment? So I like sat outside, and I was like, all right. I was all nervous and everything. And then they were like, all right, we're going to help you. We're going to contact the building, because I had to do an interview with the actual building owners. So they said, we're going to contact the building and we'll be in touch. So I said, okay, just get me in and I'll have everything else. So they got me the interview. I had my business plan. I sat down with like 8 board members, and I told them about the business and what I wanted to do, and, all of those things. And I was really, really nervous. And they said, okay, we'll be in touch. And then like, I would say 48 hours, which felt like the longest 48 hours of my life. They asked me to come back in. They said that they would be happy to work with me and give me a chance. And 5 years later, here we are.
Wow. So now with the business plan, when did you pull that together? Was that after you started doing that early research and that kind of thing? And did you do that on your own, or what's the best way that you suggest for people?
So I did my business plan literally in like 3 days. And in that 3 days, I got my friends together with me. We were in my living room.
Support is sexy.
Support is everything. And literally, like, one of my friends were in marketing. And I had a lot of experience with business plans and just business acumen and analytics coming from that Best Buy lifestyle. So I was like, okay, I know the formulas. Like, we just got to sit down and we got to like break it down. So we went through everything. I created the business plan. One of my friends created my logo for me. And I was like, all right, let's do this. So literally in like 72 hours, I had this. My business plan was probably like 7 pages. And I was ready to present. Like, give me my shot.
And that's the thing too. That's a great too. Well, one, of course, all about support. That's excellent. But then the idea too that it doesn't have to look a certain way. Of course, I'm sure you had all the basics or the things that are in most business plans, but it didn't have to be 500 pages long, or it didn't have to be this and that. You just needed something to show that you had thought this through.
Right.
Excellent.
And I had all the numbers broken down for them, and I told them like all of these things, and they were like, okay. And then I waited, and I heard back from them, and like, it was amazing.
Now, what did you base your business plan on? I know you had friends who knew the different areas, and you have some of that experience, but did you base say, for example, pricing or things like that? Was that from your own research or other things in the industry?
Yes. So at the time, 5 years ago, there weren't a lot of pet care facilities in Harlem. So I compared it to PetSmart, Petco, which
Mm-hmm.
were like the big box organizations. And then there were only like two small businesses at the time. And I looked at, what they did really well and what people loved about them. And then where was their areas of opportunity.
Right. So now when you're meeting with the board of 8 people or so, you presented them
hmm
with the business plan?
I presented them with the business plan. I told them what I anticipated, um, how many dogs I expected to have, and
Mm-hmm.
what I was going to go after, and broke down the expenses to them. And I think what was really important for me in that meeting, though,
Mm-hmm.
was that I told them, and at the time I was 26, so everyone was like, this young girl, like, it's gonna like crazy. And for me, I said I want to become a pillar in the community, because Harlem was changing. It was already changing, but it was like going through. That was like we started really experiencing gentrification, and people were on edge. Some people were welcoming, and some people were actually scared. So for me, I said, in opening my business, I want my business to be a platform so that I can do more things for the community.
Mm. So, do you think overall, for people who have to go into, people listening, who go into these types of meetings where they're either presenting their idea or something like that, coming up with a way that you're really going to make a difference beyond just, this is my business idea?
Definitely. I think that especially New York City is built on neighborhoods
Mm-hmm.
and community. So often businesses come into that neighborhood and we support them, but they don't give anything back. So they don't pour back into the community. They take it away and it goes into another community that may not necessarily be a reflection of them or the people that support them. So for me, I wanted people to see this young girl, right,
Mm-hmm.
that was a person of color, that went for her dreams. And I didn't have money. Like, I think the common misconception is that entrepreneurs come from wealthy, sometimes they do, yes, but they have
Most
like an
times they don't.
abundance. Most times they don't. And they have an abundance of money. I came from the project 26 years, on welfare at one point and all of those things. But I had the persistence, I had the exposure, and I had the guts to like do it.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about the money as far as what did you have to put down when you were, not the amount, you don't have to tell us the amount, but did you have
Right.
to put down a certain number of years or something like that when you signed with this building?
No. So you can always negotiate with your lease, but for me, strategically, I knew that I wanted to be able to pay at least 6 to 8 months of my rent,
Mm-hmm.
so that was a stress factor off of my back, so that I can really focus on my business. So that's something that I always recommend when people are like, "Hey, I'm thinking about opening a business." I always say you need to have 6 months to a year of expenses already set aside when opening your business.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you recommend that for just brick and mortar shops, or do you recommend that for anybody starting a business? Have your
Uh,
expenses covered 6 to 8 months.
I would say definitely. It depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
For brick and mortar, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because that first 6 months is critical. That first year is critical. Because nobody knows you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're constantly like grinding and trying to attract people to trust you and to want to support you. I remember I didn't have clients for like 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
90 days or more. So in my downtime, I was going out and putting out flyers and walking up to people and, letting them know about the store. But if had I not paid my rent, I would be very stressed. I would have
And
been very stressed in that.
stressed and probably not as strategic like you may have done. And this doesn't always happen, but sometimes those situations make us do things that don't even align with the business
Right.
or with who we are.
Right. Or you would have undersold yourself or your product,
Right.
because now you're in desperation versus being actually, proactive, and you have a clear mindset and you can do the things that you want to do to grow the business.
Now it sounds like from what you told us, everything moved pretty quickly. Did you use money that you already had saved up, or once you got the lease, you figured out, or once you got the agreement to be able to lease the space, you saved up the money? Just for people listening and how they should figure that out. Is it finding the space, then determining how much money you need, or having that money there somehow?
So having the money, having a budget. So I already had a budget of, I knew what I could afford and what I couldn't afford,
Mm-hmm.
because I completely emptied my savings account.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a meeting with my family, and the one condition that they had was that I finish school.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only condition. So the first year that I actually opened my business, I was leaving to go to school at Lehman College in the Bronx. So I would leave for like 2 hours. Ask my groomer. I started with one groomer. Hey, can you answer the phones and like do everything? I'll be back in 2 hours. So I would leave 2 hours every day, go to class, and then come back.
Wow. So you were pursuing your master's at that point?
My
Or no,
master's,
you were pursuing your
yes.
master's at that point. Wow. So your family said, okay, we'll support you. However, or whatever way support looks like, we'll support you, but you have to finish school.
Right. And it was my money. So
Right,
it was
right,
like, if this is what you want to do, you feel passionate about it, go for it. But
right.
you have to finish school, because at this point it was like you worked for one company for all this time. You didn't finish school. I was actually making more money than the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of got sidetracked.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like you have to have something under your belt now. So if anything ever happens or this doesn't work out, you can go get a job.
And talk about that commitment that you had to apply for yourself to continue doing it. Because like you said, those first few moments or months in business are not easy.
Yes.
How did you do it? Was it time management? Was it just being committed to doing it? What would you say was a thing for you?
It was time management. It was definitely a lot of sacrifice. I think that entrepreneurship is sacrifice, and people don't always look at it as that, especially in the service industry. So it was a lot of, removing things from my personal life. So I remember like I couldn't hang out.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't eat out. My uniform was the only thing that I could wear for, I would say, the first 3 years, because it was hard. It's a constant grind. I would say for 20 steps forward, you take 10 steps backwards at times.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally like riding a roller coaster. But I think what keeps you going is that you remember when you were high and how you felt at that height.
Mm-hmm.
So even when things happen and bring you lower, it's like, I got to get high again. So I'm going back up.
Right.
And, for me, coming from a company or organization where I was surrounded by people, yes, I was a leader, but we had a leadership team. Now I'm the face, the brand, I'm everything of my business. There's no one behind me to support me, with policies or things of that nature. So it was a huge learning curve with just running a business. Because I think sometimes when you're so personally invested in your business, you want to please everyone. And you have to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm. And is that something that you've had to do both in your business and your personal life?
Definitely in my business and my personal life. So I always say that in being an entrepreneur, the best entrepreneur is the one that can keep their integrity and their character within and throughout the entire time of running a business. Because you can't account for what comes through your door. So at the end of the day, it's you and who you are and your integrity, who you are as a person. And I remember, it's always what you do when no one else is looking.
Right. Right. That really speaks to your character.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell us about the Bark Shoppe, which is the name of your company, your pet grooming shop. Tell us about the Bark Shoppe and what makes it different than other pet grooming locations.
Okay, so the Bark Shoppe it's a cool place for people to bring their pets. We do grooming, boarding, daycare, and dog walking. 5 years ago, I didn't really have a vision for the company. We weren't called the Bark Shoppe. We were called Paw Prints of Harlem. And I just knew that I wanted to do this. The Bark Shoppe is my baby. This is literally expanding, going nationwide, and it's a premier pet care facility. In being in business for 5 years, and particularly in this industry, right away I realized that there were not enough minority owners. And I didn't necessarily see people that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an opportunity and a need there. And I felt like, okay, let's go away with everything. I was like, when I first opened, I wanted to be luxury and I had a chandelier and like all of these things. In Harlem, I'm in a very mixed demographic. So
Mm-hmm.
I can go one block east and I have people that are on a set income and, they want to do right by their pets, but I may only be able to see them on the 1st to the 15th. And I can go one block west, and for that client, it may be just a drop in the bucket. They don't mind, whatever it costs, just get it done. So, in having luxury on my window, I realized that deterred a lot of people from feeling like they were welcome into the space.
Oh, so what did it say? Like luxury pet grooming or
It's a
something?
luxury pet care facility.
Okay.
So I did a whole rebranding. And the Bark Shop is it's just simply New York's premier pet care facility. We're open 24 hours. We offer grooming, boarding, daycare, and dog walking. So over the past 5 years, we've constantly expanded in business. So I started as grooming, then I introduced boarding, then dog walking, and now we're at daycare.
Now, why did you decide on 24 hours? Was that how it was from the beginning or something else that was part of the rebranding?
No, so initially I was only open like 5 days a week. Then we went to seven, and then I realized downtown when you go to pet care facilities, they have the cameras where you can watch the pets live. And I looked at other companies, and they were open 24 hours. Like
Mm-hmm.
whatever you needed, someone was there to solve your problem. So I said, why is this not in my community? So I actually changed the entire store, renovated, added camera systems so that you're able to see your pets for daycare if you remember. And constantly, I think what's always pushed us is that I'm very, how would I say, I'm very invested. So not just anyone is going to come in just to work. It
Mm.
has to be someone that's committed, because for some people, these are like their children. It's beyond just pets. And I want to be the best. I'm very competitive. So, I want to be the best, but I want people to feel their best. I think that's the best way to say it.
Now, when you say that people can see their pets, do you mean like on your phone you can see your?
Yes. So on
Okay.
your phone or your laptop, if you
Mm-hmm.
are a member, you can actually watch your dog.
Okay. Now, when you say a member, is it a membership, like a recurring membership that you have for people? Oh, well, I guess for people who have daycare, that kind of thing.
Yes, so it's
Okay,
for
got
people
it.
that have daycare, if they're interested in becoming a member,
Mm-hmm.
you can become a member. It's a one-time fee of $99 for the year,
Mm.
and you have access to actually seeing the camera systems and other perks. So other features with grooming and free baths on your birthday, and a lot of great features.
99 for the year?
Yes.
Wow, Melissa, that's amazing. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit, and I want to be conscious of your time. Tell us a little bit about rebranding and recognizing, for the women entrepreneurs listening, recognizing when it might be time to do that. Because sometimes we get stuck on holding on to, oh, but this was the original name or this was the original idea, and I want to stick with this.
So the rebranding actually came out of doing some personal development work and momentum and attending Columbia. When I opened my business, I realized that I was thinking on a small scale. And as I grew in the business, I realized that more communities need to have this type of service. So I created the name, and we decided to change. I just changed the whole structure of the company in itself. So going away with certain services, focusing on services that actually worked. I would say don't always be tied to your name, um, because yes, people know you, and it is a huge shift going from one name to the next. But if you strategically plan everything and continue to like have a whole rebranding model, everything will work out. So I decided to rebrand because I wanted to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't. There was no way for me to grow with the name of my original business.
Right. And now with momentum, I talk about this all the time on the podcast, but for you, what do you feel like that really helped you, or how I should say, did that really help you in your business?
So I would say momentum definitely helped me as far as embracing support. I always had a great support network. My friends and my family are amazing. Literally, like on my birthday, we were building cages here in the store. Or, the names of the services actually came out of me sitting around with my friends and brainstorming. But in business, and especially being a leader and being responsible and thinking for so many other people, sometimes it's hard for you to take a seat and empower other people. So I would say in my second and third year of business, I had to sit down because I was exhausted. Like I can't be everywhere and I can't do everything. So trusting the people that I have to work for me, definitely momentum helped me with that. And then just also not being afraid to jump in,
Jump in and
whatever
see how
that
it
looks
turns
like,
out, right?
and see how it turns out.
That's right. Now, everyone, for people who might be listening for the first time, Melissa and I are talking about momentum, which I'll link to in the show notes, but just the personal branding workshop, that's my best way of describing it, that we both went through, that is a game changer in a lot of ways. So that's what we're referring to. Now,
Yes.
Melissa, tell us about your hiring a team. How did you, not how did you go about doing that, but just for people listening who either might be time to bring in a team, because sometimes we try to do it by ourselves for too long, but how did you
Right.
find the right people?
So I started with one person, because I don't do necessarily the work in the business, so the actual grooming. So I had to find someone. That I would say was the biggest challenge for me, because everyone doesn't necessarily always understand your vision, and everybody always has, there's certain things that they need.
Right.
And I respect that. But what I would say, the biggest thing that I've learned out of that is having the right people on your bus. Because sometimes in hiring someone who may be great with the work, but their attitude may be terrible, or, lateness, or any of the things that conflict with your vision, holding on to that one bad person could be the stunt your entire growth of the business. So definitely, I know for some people it's like, oh, I can't trust this person. Oh, this is my everything. You have to, if you're not in the right frame of mind, if you're not healthy, if you don't have the right team around you, you're never going to be able to grow.
Now, how do you go about marketing and promoting the business? I know in the early stages you said you were kind of out on the street giving out flyers and that kind of thing. Is that something that you still do, or what's been the best, in addition to interviews with people like me, what's been the best marketing and promotion tool for you as an owner of a brick and mortar business?
My best marketing and promotion tool is actually my clients. So your clients are your biggest advocates. I actually didn't get an awning to my space until this actual year. So it was literally like, go to the corner of 115th Street, ask for Melissa, and she'll take care of you.
And that's how people were sending people to you.
And that's how people were sending people. And then from there, it was like, okay, of course, the neighborhood was changing. So we got some people that would go on Yelp, and we have amazing Yelp reviews and amazing Google reviews. And it was like, I just want to get in this space. So I would say your customer service and your staff, speaks numbers, because people always ask like, oh, what is the secret? And I said, my staff is the secret. That's literally it. Like world class customer service every single time. And I think, especially, and that's why I wanted to be in Harlem, because you don't need to leave your community. And I even thought about myself living in the South Bronx, living in Harlem. I would never do anything in my neighborhood. I would always go to 86th Street or 96th Street. And it's like, why do I have to go to the Upper East Side or Upper West Side for the level of service that I deserve?
Right. And is that something that you recommend for people wherever they are, to kind of start by looking around your own neighborhood, location, space, or wherever it is? Because I think no matter where you live, there might be a certain area or a certain neighborhood, maybe it's wealthier or whatever it is, where everybody goes to get things done. And we don't think about, well, why there could be an opportunity or a white space, quote unquote, as they call it, for me to create something here.
Definitely. I would say looking into your own area, looking in your community, and seeing what's available, seeing, and think about when you go to these other stores and things of that nature, the level of service that you get. Because most times people that, the store that you patronize, they don't necessarily live in your area. So they bring their business there, but they're going to create and continue to create wealthier communities.
Let's take a quick break for a special offer from one of our partners. Do you spend a significant amount of time creating incredibly smart, valuable, and dope content for your audience, only to feel like one or two people see your work when you promote it on social media? Did you know only 5 to 10% of your followers see anything that you post? That is why I love the social media management tool, Meet Edgar. And I had a chance to chat with CEO and co-founder Laura Roeder, yes, a woman, about how Meet Edgar makes sure your work has a better chance of reaching your customer.
What he does that's really different from other tools is repurposes your content so that you can get out of that cycle of creating 5 new updates a day, every day for the rest of time, which is how a lot of small businesses are handling social media, and it's driving them insane because who has time for that? So right. What Edgar does is stores everything in a library and then automatically repurposes and recycles your content for you. And the reason that's a really smart idea is because 5 to 10% of your followers see any status update that you post. So why would you spend all this time coming up with content to post it once or even post it twice when such a tiny percentage of the people who follow you and want to hear from you are going to see it? So the results we see for people, you just get a lot more traffic, you get a lot more exposure, and it saves you a lot of time because once you've built up your library, Edgar's sending everything out for you. You can just go in and chat with people and do kind of the fun stuff on social.
I'm telling you, Meet Edgar has saved me a lot of time in my own business and increased my social media engagement and, more importantly, traffic to my website. Want to give it a try? Go to elainefluker.com/Meet Edgar to sign up now and use the promo code SEXY, SEXY, to get 1 month free plus $5 off your second month. That's elainefluker.com/Meet Edgar, MEETEDGAR, 1 month free plus $5 off your second month. And now back to the show. So, Melissa, what would you say entrepreneurship has taught you about yourself as a woman?
Whew. It has taught me a lot. It has taught me, I think naturally women are nurturers. So being in business, I care about my staff. I care about their livelihood beyond work, right? And I think sometimes with entrepreneurs, they're like, oh, well, I don't care about that. That has nothing to do with me. Just do the job, get paid. Sometimes I've heard situations where people are not even being paid and working. Mm-hmm. I would say it's made me more assertive, especially in going into construction and contracting. And because I'm 31 years old, sometimes people are like, well, I'm looking for the owner. I said, that's me.
Right. I am the owner.
I am the owner. And that took time as well, because for the first 2 years, I would not even say that I was the owner of my business because I didn't feel comfortable. And I thought about my grandmother, and she would never bank with young adults. She would never do anything with young adults because she felt like they weren't responsible. So I wanted to show and prove that, I'm very responsible. You can trust me. And for me, it was the professionalism. So I think in being a woman in business, it's about, being clear on what you want. You don't have to yell. I think sometimes, like, I remember I had a boss that I worked with, and he said, women lead with emotion. So even like to this day, if there's something that frustrates me, I don't cry because I condition myself to, like, you would never see me cry. You would never see me like raise my voice or any of those things. It's about having control. And then also you have your staff looking at you. So if I'm constantly using profanity or, just being irate or losing my mind, it's like, how can I expect for this person to lead me if she can't even control herself in business?
Right. But like you said, you still, as a woman and as a person, have compassion for your staff, empathy, and lead in those ways. But as you said, still, though, showing up as a leader.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So in closing, then, if you think over your life and career and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, Who would that be and what would you say?
If I had to think one person, oh, this is so emotional for me. It would be my grandmother that raised me. Um, so my grandmother, she died very young. She was only 62. She came from Jacksonville, Florida. She, didn't go to college. She went to college, but she didn't finish. She was a young mom. And she always instilled in me, hard work, dedication, being on time. And she never got to see me actually open my business. I actually say if my grandma was alive, I probably wouldn't be in business because she came from the place of you don't ask for more as long as your needs are met.
Mm.
So everything that she instilled in me, being at the bus on time, saying good morning to the bus driver, being respectful, being responsible, the importance of school, she gave me all the tools that I needed. And I felt that in her passing, she actually wrote me, I don't know if she knew she was sick, but she wrote me like a little message that I keep with me. And she said, always remember that the time that we shared was a gift.
That's beautiful.
And I feel like she's with me all the time. And I would say her going was her parting gift. Her passing away was her parting gift to me because it was like, I gave you the tools that you needed and now you can soar.
Wow. And do you think she'd be surprised to see well, I'm sure she sees it, but surprised if she were here to experience how far you are in your own business?
Her mind will be blown. Like my family all the time, they're like, oh my gosh, your grandmother would be so proud of you. She didn't like dogs or pets or anything like that. So she would literally say like, wow, her mind would be blown because I don't even think that she would even be able to wrap her mind around me having the capacity to do this.
Amazing. Well, we are proud. I am proud of you, Melissa. I know the audience is proud. Yes, it's a fantastic. I knew some of the story, but it was even better hearing it from you. So amazing. Now tell us how we can support you. I'll have links to everything on your page, but just so everyone listening can hear, where can we find you, website and social media?
Yeah, so I would love support definitely, and I think that's something that me even as a leader I'm working on because it's the conversation shifts to like how can I support you? Mm-hmm. So in supporting me, I would definitely say we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. It's the Bark Shoppe is the business name. Shop has 2 P's and an E in it, so it's THEBARKSHOPPE. Definitely, follow, send people, anyone that with pets, send them our way. Anyone that's interested or, have any questions for me, my personal Instagram is Regal, REGAL _Mel. And, I wouldn't be here without support. And I think that that's very important to me. If it wasn't for my family, my friends, my clients, my interns, just everything overall.
Awesome. And Melissa, tell us though also the address and the phone number.
Oh yes, sorry. So we're located at 100 St. Nicholas Avenue, New York, 126th Street. 126, sorry, is the zip code. We're on the corner of 115th Street. And the telephone number is 646-590-1902.
Excellent. So anybody that goes to visit or call or email, tell Melissa, Support is Sexy sent you. I want you to go over there to the Bark Shoppe, check them out. I'm sure it's fabulous. I can't wait to visit when I'm back in New York. I'm in Atlanta right now.
Yes.
Excellent. So Melissa, thank you so much. Again, I'm so proud of you. Keep going. Let me know
if
there's anything I can do to support you, get the word out or anything like that.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Now, before you go, what's a parting piece of advice from you to our listeners about anything?
Okay, so a parting piece of advice I would have is trust yourself. Know that you have everything that you need, and you may not always have the clear roadmap, but as long as you have the vision, the heart, and your mind is connected to that, it's no way that you can't succeed.
Excellent. Melissa at the Bark Shoppe. Hold on just a moment.
Okay.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Melissa. For more about her, about the Bark Shoppe, ways to get in touch with her, and ways to visit them, go to supportissexypodcast.com. Go to the search icon at the top and just search Melissa, Melissa. Her show notes page will pop up with all of the links, the resources that she mentioned, and ways again that you can visit the Bark Shoppe online or go into the store. And make sure if you go in or even if you visit online, tell Melissa Support is Sexy sent you. Again, that's supportissexypodcast.com. All right, so again, I hope you were inspired by this episode. I look forward to chatting with you more tomorrow. And until then, you know what to do. Go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.